Hey, it's Chara again, and today we'll be talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender. I watched the show when I was a kid, but I kind of stopped watching it for a while. Until a little while ago, when I saw some clips on YouTube, I got curious. I was like, hey, I remember that show. Let's just turn it on and see if I remember anything. The answer was no, I did not remember anything. Well, when I started watching, I remember some of the characters, because I remembered Katara, because I loved her. She was my favorite, and still is. But I, after watching some clips on YouTube, I was like, I still enjoy this show, so why not buy it? So I bought it on Google Play. A few weeks later, maybe a month later, they put it on Netflix. That's just how it goes. But I'm actually okay with it, because now I own it, because with Netflix, you never know when it's going to get off. Right now, I don't see it coming off anytime soon, because of how popular it is. But someday they might take it off, and this way I own it and will never have to worry about them taking it off. When I was a kid, I don't think I ever saw Legend of Korra. So I found it on CBS. I found out they're soon putting it on Netflix, but they had it on CBS. At first only the first 2 seasons, but they put 3 and 4 on. And it's not as good as Avatar: The Last Airbender. But I do love it, and I do think it deserves more love, and Korra deserves more love. But they put it on Netflix soon, so I can rewatch that, because I don't own that one. If they ever take it off, I might actually buy it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to buy it at first, but I was like, you know what, I do really enjoy it. So if they ever take it off Netflix, then I'll buy it then. But for now, no. Especially since I know it's coming to Netflix. Because with Avatar, when I bought it, I didn't know. It was before there was things everywhere saying, hey, Avatar: The Last Airbender is coming on Netflix. And Avatar is such an amazing show. It stayed on the top 10 longer than any other show, with like 50-some days, I think. Maybe 60-some days, something like that. That shows how amazing that is. So now we should try and get Legend of Korra to be up there for almost as long. Not as long. I want Avatar to beat the record, but I want Legend of Korra to be a close second. Okay, so I'm going to make a Legend of Korra video probably sometime this week, but right now I'm going to deal with Avatar, because Avatar is amazing. Like I mentioned, Katara is my favorite. My second favorite is Sokka. Third is Toph. Fourth is Zuko. Well, actually, Toph and Zuko is more neck and neck, I think. So they're probably tied for third, to be honest. I love them both, but in different ways, different reasons, you know. And half of the fan are probably gonna agree with me with what I'm about to say. The other half is probably gonna completely disagree, because it's kind of a neck and neck thing, you know, like half the fandom says yes, half the fandom says no. It's kind of like that kind of thing. But I ship Katara with Zuko. I'm sorry, I don't see him and Aang together. I don't. They don't have any chemistry whatsoever, and not to mention that for most of the series, Katara saw him as a little brother, and was all motherly with him, and she was never that way with Zuko. And it just, the way she looked at him for the majority of this series, you know, I think the first time she looked at him other than a little child was like when she kissed him at the end. And it's just, I don't see it, and I don't see how she could be attracted to him. And it's not the age difference; they're only 2 years apart, you know. And I ship Katara and Zuko, and they're 2 years apart. She's 14, he's 16. You know, I don't have a problem with the fact that he is technically 12 and that she is 14. It's just, they don't have any chemistry. There's no spark like there is with Katara and Zuko, you know? One of these days I'm going to end up making a whole video just of Zutara, because that's how much I ship it. And yeah. And apparently, this makes me kind of mad, but apparently they were actually going to have Zuko as Katara's love interest. From the very beginning, that's what they were planning. So they were probably planning that whole redemption arc with Zuko from the very beginning. And that's probably why it turned out so well, because some redemption arcs that weren't planned from the beginning aren't as good, because in the middle of the series it's like, hey, let's turn them good. So they kind of rush it. But with Zuko, I think, I might be wrong, but it's a theory, but I think they were planning it from the very beginning. If they really were planning for Zuko to be Katara's love interest, the only way to plan that was if they were planning on turning Zuko good, you know? So they were probably planning it from the very beginning. That's why it turned out so beautifully. Why I love redemption arcs fail when his succeed, because they were planning it from the very beginning. And it's like first season, all he is evil. There's like no secondary with him. Second season, he starts questioning everything, you know, and he's wondering like, is the Fire Nation really good? Is my uncle right? Is this really my destiny? Is Ozai and Azula really want the best for me? The answer is no, because they both suck. Ozai sucks. Azula's awesome. She might be evil and wicked, but she's awesome. My favorite villain of the entire ATLA universe. Legend of Korra might have had some better villains, but none surpasses Azula. No, just no. Anyways, where was I? But then in season, season 2 really showed Zuko's struggle. You know, when he let Appa go from the prison, when he got close to Katara at the end, when both Iroh and Azula was trying to convince him to join them and do the right thing. And then at beginning of season 3, after he did betray Katara and Aang and Iroh, he just didn't feel like he belonged. He felt like something was off. It's because deep down, he already made his choice. He made his choice with Iroh, with Katara, but he was just, he wanted his father's love so much, so badly, that it clouded his judgment. And it's sad really, because you shouldn't want your father's love. You should, it's unconditional. You should just earn it. You don't even need to earn it. You should just be given it, you know? But not with Ozai. Azula always had his love because she was a prodigy. Zuko had to work hard, so he was forgotten. And he had his mother's love, but eventually she left because she had to protect him. And the only way to do that was to make sure, that Ozai didn't kill him to become Fire Lord, was to forge some papers or whatever and make sure he becomes Fire Lord, which got her banished. And she did all that to save his life. And so he lost his mother, was under his father's influence, you know, and all he had to guide him was Iroh, you know, and it's sad, really. It really is. But yeah, so in season 3 he was trying to figure out why he felt this way. Like, he even told May how he was in the boardroom and he was the perfect son, and his father had waited for him to show up. He was able to give ideas when it was his time to speak, and he was the perfect son, but it wasn't him, and he realized that. And then right after is when he left May and broke up with May, and then decided to seek out the Avatar. Well, he went to confront Ozai first, which I thought was an amazing. How they did that was amazing. It was because a lot of cartoons will never break that bound. You know, they don't break the bound they did with Toph and her blindness, which I'll get to, or Zuko and his abuse. Zuko confronted his abuser, and it was displayed beautifully, because he went off on him, saying how Iroh was more of a father to him than Ozai ever was, and how he thought what he wanted all these years was his honor, which was the only way to get was by capturing the Avatar. But he finally realized and told Ozai that the reason why he was doing all this was for him, to get his love. And it's messed up, and I just think they displayed that beautifully. They broke so many bounds that cartoons usually don't get into, you know? Especially ones that were originally made for kids, even though a lot more adults like them these days. I swear they do. But I just think it was done so amazingly. And then Ozai told him how his mother's alive, and Ozai shot lightning at Zuko, and Iroh had taught Zuko how to redirect it, so that's exactly what he did. And I think that was also amazing, how Zuko didn't learn how to shoot lightning, but instead learned how to redirect it, so he could, it's like it's like a metaphor for him redirecting his sister and father's abuse, and it's so beautiful. Anyways, okay, moving on. Toph and her blindness. I think that's another thing they did beautifully. And yes, they made blind jokes, but they didn't do it in a disrespectful way, you know? I mean, even Toph went up with it. And it's not like they were making, one thing I love is the fact that they do constantly forget that she's blind. Well, it's not like they forgot that she's blind. It's just, they do stupid things that's like when Sokka bumped into her, you're like, can't you watch where you're going? Because everyone was grumpy. This was when they were on the desert, desert after losing Appa, and Aang had flew off, and they were all tired, hot, thirsty, and they were all grumpy. But Toph was like, no, and he was like, oh right, sorry. And when Toph said she didn't want to go in the library, Katara was like, well, you had something against the library? This is still when they were in the desert, and they were all still getting grumpy. This was before they were really grumpy, but getting there. And Toph was like, well, I've held books before, but they've never really done it for me. And she's like, oh, right, sorry. But, like, with the one where there was a wanted poster for her, and Zuko had flung the paper in her face, and like, what's this? And she's like, well, I'm guessing it's a sheet of paper, but I'm guessing you're referring to what's on the sheet of paper, because Toph's hilarious and she's funny. But then, later in the episode, Katara found it and did the same thing. And she was like, what's this? And Toph was like, oh my gosh, what is it with you people? I'm blind! But it was hilarious because it's like, they do forget. But not like really forget, but it's like, they don't think of her as blind because of how capable she is and how strong and fierce. And they don't see her as this helpless little blind girl like her parents did, which Toph actually mentioned in that episode with the paper. She was like, when Katara and Sokka were talking, which I thought was an incredibly sweet moment, because I do love the friendship. And a lot of people ship them as a couple. I honestly don't know if I ship them as a couple. I like their friendship more because I ship Sokka with Suki. But anyways, when they were talking, and Sokka was like, they didn't know Katara was listening, and Sokka was like, well, don't tell anyone I ever said this, but a lot of times I don't even remember what my mom looks like. Whenever I try to picture, all I picture is Katara. She's always just been there. She's always done this for me and always been there emotionally and supportingly. And yes, she can be bossy, but she does it because she wants to help or something like that. And then Toph's like, well, to be honest, Katara loves me for who I am, which my own mother couldn't do, because they loved her defenselessness, her, you know, helplessness. And when they found out that she was this great earthbender, that she was doing these earthbending wrestling mania thingy championships, they hated it, you know, and they didn't love that this is who she was. They loved her being defenseless and helpless and I guess needing her, you know. And she said how Katara loves her for who she is, and being motherly isn't all that bad because, you know, they need it, which is one thing that I love, because Katara was always like the mother of the group. But the minute Zuko joined, he was like the father of the group. Like that scene where the 4-part Sozin's Common episode, and Aang was missing and so was Momo, and then Sokka was like, where's Momo? He was like, oh my gosh, I knew it was only a matter of time. Appa ate Momo, because Sokka's an idiot, but he's funny, and he's also a misunderstood genius, which you should watch my video under Sokka being a misunderstood genius. It's on here somewhere. What was I saying? Okay, but then Katara being the reasonable motherly girl she was, and I understand why she's all motherly, because she had no other choice, you know. She grew up without a mother, and you know. But anyways, where was I? But so Katara was like, he's probably just with Aang, and then Sokka ignored her, saying, "I'm coming for you, buddy," and tries to go aside. He bites his mouth, and then Sokka's like, Zuko's like, "Sokka, get out!" and bites his mouth. I swear, another reason to ship the two of them, because they're like a mother-father duo, and I love it. And yeah, because they're like the only reasonable ones in the group while everyone's out. Like I would love to see Zuko in The Runway. I think that was the episode name, right? Where they were doing all the scams. I think it was named The Runway because that's what they named Toph on Wanted Pictures. Anyways, I would love to see him in the group at that point, because I think it would have been hilarious, because everyone is doing scams, and then Katara's trying to stop them, and then Zuko just snaps, like, and be like, "What's wrong with you people? You guys are all idiots. How did you defeat me all these years?" I would have loved that. That would have been hilarious. I love Zuko, I love Iroh, I love Toph, I love Katara, I love Sokka, I love them all, I swear. Okay, so, anyways, some of my favorite episodes, like, I love the Painted Lady, because I love what Katara says to Sokka about how she'll never turn her back on anyone, and then Sokka's like, "I'll never turn my back on you." That was really sweet. And I love Sokka's master, because I love how there's a whole episode dedicated to him, and I love that it does get hype, because he deserves it, because he is a misunderstood genius, and he's amazing. He is the leader of the group, and he may be the Avatar, but Sokka's obviously the leader, you know? And yes, he had some issues at the beginning, but he learns and he becomes better than who he was, and he's the planner, he's the organizer, and he definitely deserves all the love. He does. You know, and there's all this talk about like what Hogwarts everyone is, and that can be really hard, because I mean, when you look at Harry Potter, you know, a couple of them can be in more than one house. Like, Hermione could have been easily Ravenclaw, and Ron could have been easily Hufflepuff. But both of their Gryffindors was stronger, so that's where they were. And the same on Avatar, you know, Katara could easily be either Hufflepuff or Gryffindor. And honestly, unless there was a crossover where they go to Hogwarts, I honestly don't know which one would be stronger, her kindness or her bravery. I mean, like on the Painted Lady, it shows both of them equally, in my opinion. It shows how kind she is, because that's why she wants to help so much. And it shows her bravery, because she's willing to jump into battle to help them without even thinking, you know? So it shows like. And then with Sokka, he could be Gryffindor because he's ready to go into battle at any time. But he could also be Ravenclaw because of how smart he is. Because of how much of a planner he truly is, you know? But anyways, off of this Harry Potter stuff. But anyways, yeah. One of my favorite episodes from season 2, besides the Crossroads of Destiny, because I love the Katara, because that's Katara Zuko's first real moment, unless you want to include the whole time when he kidnapped her and that line, "I can help you," well, how did he put it? He was like, "I can save you from the pirates," and like, yeah, so, but we're not going to count that, because he technically did kidnap her, even though it was their first real scene together. The first real moment is in the Crossroads of Destiny, where they were both kidnapped by Azula. But anyways, what was I? Oh yeah, one of my favorite episodes of season 2, besides that episode, is the Blind Bandit, 'cause that's where you meet Toph, and Toph's just awesome. And all of season 2 was building up to meeting her. You know, Aang's fishing, Boomy saying you need to find someone that listens before she fights or something like that, and which is tough, because that's what makes her the most powerful earthbender, and that's why in Legend of Korra, why earthbenders do seem more powerful than in Avatar, because Toph teaches them to listen before they fight with the ground, because the ground is earth, and why that's why that and Toph became the very first metal bender, and Katara became the second blood bender, and she also ends up outlawing it because, like I said, she's a true of buff kind and knows that that's kind of wrong. Because it is wrong. To control someone's blood, you can control them, their movements, and everything. And yeah, I think I only showed her use it twice in the series in Avatar. One, when she first learned she had it, and it scared the crap out of her. Then it did show her use it again later in the season, because that was season 3, where you learn. I like that episode too with Hama. But anyways, it goes to when she's trying to find the person who killed her mother. She uses it, you know, because she was. And she ends up outlawing it because she knows it's wrong. She was just under a lot of emotional stress at that point. I do love each episode with Zuko's field trips. He didn't really have a real field trip with Toph, but they did go on a little journey to find Aang together. My favorite is a tie between the one with Sokka and the one with Katara, because I love when him and Katara go to save to try and find the person who murdered her mom, and she ends up not being able to kill him, and she even tells them that she doesn't know if it's because she's too strong not to, if she's strong enough not to, or too weak to be able to do it. And that's when she finally forgives Zuko, and they hug, and it was sweet, and my feels. But then the one with Sokka, which is when they go to the prison to try and save, what's his name, Hakuda? I think that's his name, something like that. Sokka and Katara's father. From prison, and he ends up reuniting with Suki, and they all have to get out, have a prison escape. And yeah, I love Sokka and Zuko's friendship, I do. But yeah, I could probably go on for an hour just talking about Avatar. I'll probably make another one of these videos eventually. But like I said, I ship Katara and Zuko. I'm definitely gonna make a whole video on the two of them one of these days. I am. I know it. I love Sokka and Toph's friendship, you know. I mean, like, every time they're in an unfamiliar place like water or not Earth, because she's familiar with Earth, fire, she's always holding on to his arm. I find that sweet, you know. And how, like, when she was drowning, she didn't know how to swim, and Suki's the one that ran to save her, and she's like, "Oh, Sokka, I knew you'd save me," and gives her a kiss on the cheek, and she's like, "Actually, it's me," and she's like, "Oh, well, you can just let me drown now." Oh, I love Toph. She's hilarious. She is. But I do love their friendship, and I don't think I see them in a romantic way. Apparently, the producers did say that she had a crush on Toph or on Sokka, but I don't think it's real. And there are theories that they did get together at one point or another, because a couple of Toph's grandkids look kind of like Sokka, so they think that her second child is Sokka's, since they mentioned she had 2 different fathers for each. 2 different fathers, 1 for each. But I don't buy that, because Sokka would want to be in a child's life, and I don't want them to know their father. And you know, so I don't buy that theory, because yeah, he never had kids of his own, and he still heard over Suki's death, but I don't see him doing that with Sokka. But yeah, what was I saying? So, like I said, I don't see Katara and Aang in a romantic way, not even a little bit. Okay, what did I mention? Okay, so I mentioned my favorite Katara, I mentioned Katara and Zuko, I haven't really gotten to Sokka's humor. But he is hilarious. He has some funny moments, and he might be a genius, and he might not be a blonde, but he has some blonde moments. There is no denying that. Definitely. Toph's humor, she's funny, which I mentioned. Sokka and Suki, I really didn't get into their relationship, but I do ship it. I mentioned that once, I think, on this video already. But they didn't get off on the right foot with Sokka's being a little sexist at a few times in the first season. But thanks to Katara and Suki, he gets over that, and he fights to be a Kyoshi warrior with her, because she is a good fighter, and so is he. They did have a connection when they first met, but Yue was the first person he was in love with, and he watched her die. That's probably why he never moved on after Suki's death and never had kids, because it was too much for him. He watched he watched two people he was in love with more than anything die before his very eyes, and I'm not surprised why he didn't want to have another relationship or kids, because after Yue and Suki, it's just too much. See? I didn't really get into Aang. He's not one of my favorite characters. Katara and Sokka's relationship, I love their brother and sister relationship, because it's a lot of brother and sister relationships on TV, or especially cartoons, they either get into the rivalry part too much or the bonding part too much. But on here, it's like an equal, you know? They fight, they argue, they don't agree, they have their own ways of doing things, they split up and try to do it their own way, but then, on the other hand, they hug and they worry about one another, you know, like when Jeb mentioned about Sokka finding out and that he had to get rid of him. I don't think that's how he put it, but Katara instantly got worried, and she's like, and she pushes him out of the way. She's like, "Where's Sokka?" You know, and then when when he first was trying to learn firebending and he accidentally burned Katara, Sokka gets all mad, pushes him to the ground, is like, "You burned my sister," you know. And when Katara comes back, he's all like, "Oh my gosh, Katara, are you okay?" And then when when the spirits kidnapped Sokka, she was so worried about him. She was like, she told him he had to find her. He had to find him, and she couldn't sleep. All she could think about was Sokka. And then when he comes back, she instantly runs to hug him. You know, and I love how it shows the rivalry, but it also shows the bonding, because they are close, you know. Like I mentioned that whole Sokka and Toph moment when Katara was listening, and how everything Sokka said, it really got to Katara because she never realized that, you know, and it's just so sweet. I love their relationship, and I think it's so underrated. No one really talks about. I mean, everyone either talks about Katara with Zuko or Aang, or talks about Sokka with Toph and Suki, and they never really talk about their relationship, you know, how close they are, but how much they fight, but how just amazing they are. I didn't really get into Iroh's wisdom or Zuko's honor. I got into it a little bit when I was talking about his redemption arc. Iroh's tea and Sokka's boomerang. Yeah, but as you can tell, I'm a big Avatar fan, and I'm probably gonna there's a lot on my notes that I didn't get into, so I'm probably gonna make another Avatar video, because there's just so much to say, because I love it all, you know. And there's probably more that I did get into a little bit that I would like to elaborate on. But I just love it, and I love Legend of Korra too, which I told you I'll make a video sometime this week, and then I'll probably eventually make another Avatar video, and I may or may not make another Legend of Korra video. It depends if I get into everything I want to in a half hour, pretty much. Because I'm trying not to make my videos too longer than 30 minutes because no one will want to watch it. But anyways, so yeah, that's 30 minutes of how much I love Avatar, and there will probably come another 30 minutes of how much I love Avatar. So, that is all. Please like and subscribe and comment your favorite, anything Avatar related, you know, what you think, your feelings, do you ship Zutara or Katang, you know, just anything I mentioned pretty much about Avatar. Okay, so, see ya.